All right, let's transition to our Snaptrude case study. Today, we want to show how drawing that automation that we just showed is a really great complement for online BIM solutions. And Snaptrude, as being the leading, I would say, new generation of BIM tools, is a great partner. So let me welcome Altaf, the founder and CEO of Snaptrude.
Thank you so much, Robert. Super glad to join this conversation.
Yeah, Snaptrude and Graebert have been collaborating for some time already, really working on honing in on delivering a really rich drawing automation that has the quality necessary to be an effective deliverable for their customers. So before we go into the drawing automation piece, I think it'd be great for Altaf to catch us up on Snaptrude and what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as an intro, Snaptrude is a modern design tool born in the cloud. So our core thesis has been how do we bring the non-collaborative design tooling system which has existed in the cloud? Can we make a connected ecosystem, which involves connecting the people to take the decisions, the data which is required to make those decisions, and the tools which have created all of the silos in the traditional sense. So as you can see on the screen, Snaptrude, you can design and model all of the detailed geometry right on a web browser in a connected ecosystem where all the stakeholders can real time collaborate. So both synchronous and asynchronous collaboration is possible. And a lot of the design details pertaining to your BIM geometry can be created, and the data, as you can see, the square footage or like the areas was shown live as you were literally drawing out your flooring. So real time feedback of data is something which you have really focused on, and comes with all of your um, design details around construction layers, wall assemblies, and even assets of using door, window, furniture families. And again, since we strongly believe in interoperability, the connecting tools part, you can reuse all of your library elements uh, from Revit or any other file format that you've comfortably built your library, and import all of those into Snaptrude and reuse them and change those things in a parametric fashion. As I said again, like the core intention is how do we not just rebuild the old BIM tools in the cloud, but actually accelerate the the design creation process and help people take the right decision so they are delivering better designs, better buildings in shorter time period. So quantity takeoffs, programs, area and square footage, all of those feedback elements go along with the design modeling and design geometry, which is happening over here.
Great. I think acceleration is super interesting. I think it's maybe one of the maybe sort of the umbrella term we can think about for all the things we're trying to accomplish here, right? How do you quicker come to get to the 3D geometry? How do we faster get to the finished drawing deliverable? But let's talk very briefly about the things you just announced recently about bringing the quantitative piece to design.
Yeah, so really excited about this entire tables release which we did. As we all know, design is data is extremely important, but somehow design as data have always existed in two different silos. It's almost like oil and water. And we realize that if decision making is extremely important, both of these have to come together. And after working with so many firms, we realized it's better to embrace Excel because there's like some magic over there. That's why it's being used and loved by everyone. So instead of just using the traditional Excel, we built our own version, which we call as tables, and it's live connected to your design environment. As you change the size of a room, your program gets updated. And the second order data which you require, say using a cost per square feet or building code, occupancy load, occupancy factor, all of those second order parameters are computed. You can even create a financial model for your multifamily project. And as the square footage is updating, all of your data is live sync. And it's not just for the early stage. We want to take it to a lot of different stages as well. Quantity takeoffs, carbon. It would be the holder of all the information, again, in a live connected manner to the design environment. And hopefully we can even leverage this for creating detailed documentation, drawings, using the automation which we have now.
Yeah, and maybe this is not clear from the screenshot we have on the screen here, is that this is part of the core Snaptrude experience. You're not leaving Snaptrude to go and work on this, right?
Exactly. That's the beauty of it, that it's like Apple ecosystem. You don't have to leave the ecosystem. It just works well within those.
Well, I'm super excited. I think, as you said, as we said at the very earlier, acceleration is all we need here, right? We're not just the idea is not to just transplant the existing tool set into the cloud, but also think through how do we link this process better together, right? So that we can have multi loops connecting everything while keeping the user productive. So maybe let's jump briefly into the automation piece then. And so we showed the online drawing automation platform from ours. And here we've actually integrated this together with the Snaptrude team so that we can take the geometry produced and the data that's in the Snaptrude model and help the user create a drawing deliverable, right? And so today, that's already shipping, is that you can export the BIM geometry and content out of Snapstream and bring it into ARES Commander. But we thought a deeper integration would be very useful for the customers. And so just give you an example of that workflow. Uh, you export the model through a dedicated ARES Commander toggle inside Snaptrude that will run the online processing. This can take a couple of seconds to a small number of minutes. And when it's finished, you'll get a notification saying, hey, your design is ready. And the very first thing you can take a look at is a PDF read-only screen snapshot of what was exported, right? This will contain all the floor plans, the sections, the elevations, and will give you a good idea of if there's any issues with geometry during export. But the main thing is that you can also get a link that directly opens an ARES Commander. ARES Commander knows what to do with this link and automatically downloads that project for editing. That's the workflow you see here. And once you're done, you'll see the full project in 3D, but also all the sheets with all the annotations. And you can go in and continue adding BIM-aware annotations so that all the data you've stored in that model is directly accessible. And so one example is, for example, we have these door tags here, and these tags contain information that's directly driven from the BIM model. I can change the visual appearance and the positioning to my taste. We already have some smart placement logic, but obviously this is a creative choice. And so we want to give you the full ability to update that positioning. But not only that, you can also go in, update, and create details, also directly driven from the BIM model, but having the access to all the CAD tools that you're familiar with to go and finish that detailed design. And then also, we talked about, Altaf talked about bringing in existing BIM families and geometry. We can do the same thing here. We bring in all the DWG content you have available. Any detail you did not model in 3D, you can directly bring into the 2D design and have that be part of your drawing set. And when you're done, right, you can have a polished design that you can then publish again as a PDF or share with a view-only link, for example, through our online platform. How does it work in the background, right? So what happens is that the Snaptrude team implemented a mechanism to talk to our ARES online drawing automation. It defines a job with a source model, a configuration, so styling, but also what kind of floors plans should be generated. The platform will process that, return back the results of the job, which contains both the PDF, the editable DWG set, and this ARES live link that allows ARES to open that directly inside. Okay. And so just to conclude, we think you can't just make the BIM smarter. You also need to make the drawing smarter. So we really want to leverage the BIM content, right? That's something we've talked about over 2 or 3 years, but now we're finally able to also show this in an integrated fashion, connecting cloud solutions directly with this capability. So, Altaf, now that we've sort of reached this point in our partnership and driving on both the quality of the results of the drawings, but also on the integration, how do you see this going further? Like, what do you think is going to be beneficial to the Snaptrude users?
Yeah, as we have been discussing and the industry discusses, design to construction is a highly non-linear journey, and iterating on those designs along with the drawings is going to be extremely important, because at any point of time the budget can change, the design intent can change, and hence the model has to change, and hence the drawings have to change. So tighter integration is what I think the entire community would love, and this is, I think, the perfect example of what the modern BIM stack would look like. It's not just as we mentioned, as you mentioned in this conversation, moving existing BIM tools to the cloud, but actually accelerating the creation of the deliverables and the outcomes basis very informed decisions. And those decisions, as you make as an architect or a designer or an engineer, get automatically through an automation get translated into your geometry as well as your deliverables in the form of drawings. I think if we can make this loop more tighter, I think the entire community, as well as like Snaptrude's users, as well as RSS users, will really appreciate and love.
Yeah, I think coming back to what you just said, I think every person that we've ever talked to in the design industry complains that yeah, we start working on drawings, but we get this change, right? And it's I think this is not, it's human, it's not changeable. It's, I think, all we can do is support those users and saying, one, if you've already invested in a drawing, that investment is not gone. But second, we'll even allow you to get to that point much faster, right? So that it's not like you're crushing the threshold where it doesn't make sense to keep working on the BIM, that you're going to go transition totally to drawings. I think we want to keep people in the BIM, right, as long as possible. But that means the drawing workflow needs to be really tight. And so, yeah. So, but I'm excited. I think we're moving in all the right directions, and I think showing what we can even do today is a great milestone. So, Altaf, thanks again for coming here today to show the integration and presenting Snaptrude. And I'm excited about all the next steps in our partnerships.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really glad to be doing this with you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.